Are you recording?
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Eric,
And I'm Mark.
and together we are
Two
Neanderthals. You got to
Yeah.
take the harmony line next time.
Oh yeah, we practiced that too. I was the baritone before. But
Oh, were you?
anyway, yeah.
I'm probably a baritone too,
Oh
unfortunately.
yeah. Okay.
Most males are.
So we're kind of experimenting a little bit with a new system, a new microphone, and so forth. And
yeah.
but we wanted to chat for a few minutes about something that you had brought up when we got together this morning.
Yeah, so this morning I was looking at YouTube, as I am occasionally want to do, and I encountered a video featuring Bill Maher and Joe Rogan on the Joe Rogan podcast. And the topic had to do with a hunger or thirst for common sense. And so Bill Maher's idea at that point is that there's a fairly systemic and pervasive hunger for common sense in our world these days, and it's exactly that hunger that has propelled both him and Joe Rogan, and perhaps a few others too, to these sort of celestial heights of celebrity. That really what's at the base of it is that both of them are able to, I guess, articulate and explore ideas with a much larger fraction of common sense than usual, and in a way that speaks to this systemic thirst within our world. And I think part of why this might be an interesting topic is that I think it fairly quickly gets at the dimensions of complexity and simplicity that run throughout our world. And of course, Maher's idea is that the world seems so disorienting and so crazy and so wacky and nonsensical a lot of the time that common sense has become a relative rarity, so much so that anyone who seems to provide even an inkling of it can all of a sudden become very rich and very famous, and that's what he attributes his own success to.
Well, and also there's another component to this, and that is that with this thirst for, I'm going to bracket common sense, okay, because that seems to me to be a relative term. It's like it depends on who you're asking as to what common sense is. But people that would normally be, I'll just pick one side, a conservative, quiet, not outspoken in public kind of would then choose out of a desperation almost for some common sense. Somebody like, let's just pick on Trump, I guess, with the comments that he's made about women and other kinds of things, but yet these like Southern Baptist moms, for example, voted for him and are just vapid supporters. But there's this other side of the common sense that they're trying to grasp at. In other words, you have to take the whole package.
Yeah, I think that certainly common sense is a relative term, and it depends on who's using the phrase and what their agenda is. But I think the whole issue of agendas, political and otherwise, is a big part of what Bill Maher was talking about when he was saying, well, the world seems so complex and so disorienting that, you watch the news or you watch anything. You watch YouTube videos, people hanging out in the basement making YouTube videos, and everyone seems to have a damn agenda in one way or another.
Yeah.
So, and in a way, it doesn't so much matter whether it's a leftist agenda or a rightist or a centrist agenda, that everyone has one, which leaves everyone else sort of saddled with this very complicated world to engage, where we're all trying to sort of discern what the underlying agenda is. And the world seems full of snake oil salesmen at some level.
At all levels.
Yeah.
And
yes, at all levels.
So on the other side of this attraction toward common sense, this grasping for common sense, are left-leaning people who are grabbing at images, ideologies, maybe, of what they would like to see as common sense. And that would be with Joe Biden. It would be the other side of that if you're talking about politics of that spectrum, and there's not really a you know, then the conservative people see that as, how could you possibly even support somebody like that, because he's complacent and he's not assertive enough, and blah blah blah. And so then the media knows that we feed off of this, so they spin the news to they opinionate everything instead of presenting the facts, and it keeps us pushed down so far that we can't find the common sense in it. We can't find what we're looking for.
Yeah, and that's part of what I'm saying too, is, and I think that's right, because so much of our cognitive apparatus is engaged in the process of trying to discern what the facts of the situation are, which are perhaps relatively simple and commonsensical, versus what fraction of it is spin, manipulation, agenda-driven ideology, and all of that kind of stuff.
And
so
it's almost impossible to get to.
Oh, it is. It's very difficult. Like, you're sort of, well, one strategy is sort of to watch the left-leaning news and watch the right-leaning news and try to interpolate the region in between them. But that at best is a very loose and approximate strategy, I would say.
Well, and then you have all of these responses to this failure to find common sense in the world, in the lived experience of people. For example, you'll have some good old boys in their basement loading all of their ammunition up and getting ready for the Russians to invade. And then you have other people already chattering right now about the food shortages that are coming, the wheat and the other items. And so there's going to be, do you remember 2 years ago?
Toilet paper.
One pack of toilet paper and one package of chicken and so forth. And so that's coming again, apparently, and it's going to be a lot worse than it was before. So you have these self-perpetuating kinds of things in this search for common sense and homeostasis.
And I think part of what you're getting at, Mark, which I think is a very interesting idea, is that, common sense becomes rare when we're scared, right? So when the world seems not merely complex, but complex in a threatening way, the sensation of fear and scarcity, and of course we're living in the age of COVID, so there's a kind of mortality question already in the air, so to speak, I guess literally in the air. That makes, that kind of terrain makes, common sense a very difficult thing, because when we're scared as hell, like, can I wipe my butt tomorrow? Mark, can I wipe my butt?
Will I have to use a Sears catalog or not?
Or a wet rag? Will I be reduced to the primitivism of the wet rag?
You'd have to be probably over 50 to even know about the Sears catalog.
I got the reference.
Reference, but we get it. But so that's another thing, because when you mentioned the COVID, so for example, is it Pittsburgh or Philadelphia has reimposed the mask mandates now, and so that's coming back around over 2 years later, and people are absolutely weary and exhausted from that. And I think to the point now to where it doesn't matter what they say. The common sense, what would have in the past maybe been the voice of common sense, is just discounted and disregarded. When Fauci gets back on here now talking about putting the mask back on after 2.5 years, people are getting tired of that. I mean, they're just it's overcoming their cautionary abilities.
Right. So, and this is sort of what we're getting at, the idea that, when we're brought to the more primitive levels, right, that we're not really in the prefrontal cortex anymore. We're brought more into the limbic system responses, the fight or flight responses, the threat responses, fear responses. All of a sudden, what we used to think of as common sense becomes a relative rarity. But it becomes, why? Because we don't have the capacity to discern
Yeah.
what is common, straightforward sense from what is just a complete alarmist fabrication. Why? Because we're in an emotional state where that's hard.
And to pull out the pieces of that really is something to be concerned about becomes virtually impossible.
Yeah, right. So what do we end up doing? Well, I think what we end up doing is a combination of things. First of all, we end up guessing. We end up taking our best guess, which is a very human thing to do. And second of all, we simply react emotionally,
as a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah, as a knee-jerk reaction. So we react impulsively and emotionally in lieu of having a fairly direct, straightforward, common sense compass to navigate by. So we, our compass is, if you've ever been hiking, the compass is supposed to point toward magnetic north, right? But our compass is like swinging all over the damn place.
And so people that maybe otherwise would be regarded as a bringer of some kind of balanced reason and common sense, as it were, they're vilified, or they're, and like Joe Rogan was dragged through all kinds of hell here a few months ago, with some things that happened. I didn't even keep up with that, but I do know that people are so in such as you said, the limbic
limbic
system is just an overdrive, that everybody is a target because out of frustration and desperation.
And at this point, I'd like to perhaps propose what may be on the edge of a conspiracy theory. When we wonder about what Joe Rogan's real crime is, as opposed to what he's accused of, maybe his real crime is that he's making too much damn sense, and he's speaking too directly and too honestly. That's the real crime, because, what I think at some level the power structures of our world would prefer is for us to be disoriented, for us not to have a reliable compass. And the reason why is because the more we're like that, the more easily we can be controlled, right? So you can
to a point,
yeah.
But at a point, it turns into what it did in Milwaukee and Portland, and at a point it goes that way. And if it's widespread enough, then you have a collapse.
Yeah,
you have a societal collapse.
It's a difficult thing. Like, you don't want your population to be too smart and perceptive, but you don't want them to be too stupid and unperceptive either.
Burning down their own businesses.
Yeah, because at those, exactly. Like at those extreme points, power doesn't want either one of those. Power doesn't want complete anarchy, because it's against power's interest. On the other hand, it doesn't want an articulate, perceptive population, because then
it's like the sodium-potassium balance, the pH balance in the human body. That has to be. It's a small spectrum right there.
Yes,
that has to be.
And if you're out of that spectrum, you die.
Yeah, and it's a very slim margin.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think we're going to have to wrap up for the.
Yeah, we didn't want to do a long video today, partly because Mark has to leave. And
we'll try to pick this up sooner than later.
Yeah, but at any rate, so what can we say by way of summation? So yeah, it's a complicated world, and it's so damn complicated that sometimes things are simple.
Right.
So the fact that sometimes things occasionally, common sense does make its appearance, perhaps in the form of Joe Rogan or Bill Maher or whoever else, doesn't in a way alleviate the complexity of the world, because the world would be in a way simpler if it were uniformly complex all the time. But the fact is that sometimes it's really complicated and sometimes it's really simple. But that makes our task even harder.
To differentiate.
Yes, to differentiate and discern. At any rate, thanks for hanging with us for this, whatever 15 minutes was our goal for this video. And have a good one from Two Neanderthals.
That's right. We'll see you next time.
Carrollton, Georgia. Take care now.